One of the things people sometimes accuse libertarians of being pacifists, Yeah, yeah. I guarantee you, if you're watching this campaign at all, we're not pacifists. Libertarians believe that when they're attacked, they have an obligation to defend their lives and their families and their state and their country. And people say, well, because of the way you libertarians feel, you probably don't support the troops. That's not fair.
It isn't.
We support the troops, each and every one of them. We have serious questions about their mission.
Right.
And
I think that peace activists and soldiers have the same prayer, and that's for peace. And I think that our founders believed in non-interventionist policy, and we should not be funding the policemen of the world. How many bases do we have now?
over 930 in over 130 nations.
I thought that there was mainly peace around the world. Why so many bases?
Well, I've made the statement, and I've been called on it, but I still stand by it, that we need all those bases so colonels have a place to command. There's a standing thing among certain segments of the military that the more brash you pin on somebody, the dumber he becomes. That's not always true, but I guess what I'm saying is our wars that we're fighting right now mainly involve our guard and our reserves doing the heavy lifting. And we feel that's wrong. First of all, it disrupts our families. It creates a difficult situation for the folks back home. I know the Guard and the reserves are all volunteers,
Sure.
but nevertheless, at a certain stage, they don't expect to be gone every 2 or 3 months for 3 or 4 tours of duty and that kind of thing. And we think either our nation has got to make a commitment to fight constitutionally and defensively,
Right.
or stay home.
I think it's sad that many in our Guard who have been re-upped to deploy, how many times? Half a dozen times. They signed up as the National Guard, and now they're introduced as the International Guard. The National Guard supports their homes and their families and their states.
Right.
And that the governors haven't stood up to keep their own reservists at home, I think was an abdication of responsibility.
They're too eager to turn them over under federal control. And I think we're going to resist that. We care about our guards. When we want to leave them the individual option that if there is a national call up, they can volunteer. We don't want to deny anybody that. But we also don't want to make our guards people here in Ohio subject to every whim of somebody in the Pentagon or some politician in Washington. We believe in a strong national defense, and it's hard to defend our state and our nation when our fighters and our warriors are overseas fighting somebody else's war.
That's what happened on 9/11. Our very own fighter jets weren't able to be scrambled to defend our national treasures.
So we just feel that the priorities ought to be right. The first priority and the first requirement under Article 1, Section 8 is a strong national defense. And, if for some of my Republican friends, and Sherry and I both have come out of that tradition, if you can recall back to Senator Robert Taft of Ohio, known as Mr. Republican. Have you ever heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
He was also a non-interventionist. He believed that our people shouldn't be sent overseas to get involved in the civil wars and the fights of others. That our obligation was to defend America and defend her strongly, willfully, and fiercely. And that we shouldn't be out there messing around in other people's business. And I think, given what has happened in the last 10 to 12 years, the people of Ohio and of the nation are starting to see the wisdom in those words, that every time some tin pot dictator somewhere does something that annoys one of our politicians, we're threatening or sending troops in on the ground. And we got too many unanswered questions, too much unaccountability. And we think we support our troops and everything they do. But we want them to do it constitutionally, and we want them to do what's best for them and their families.
Right.